Hello, hello, everyone. It's me, Arden Lee, and that is my assistant Virgil in the background. And I am here today with another video, and today I want to talk a little bit about Black Friday, which is today. So, of course, for most people, Black Friday often starts yesterday. Sometimes as early as 5 or 6 o'clock. How ridiculous is that, right? I think that Black Friday is a really excellent example of some of the patterns in our society and how they affect us as individuals. So I'm going to take this opportunity to go a little deep into extrapolating that and try to come up with a couple of useful things that we can start to think about it. So first of all, if you have not done so already, I would love to invite you to subscribe to my channel. Let me know what you think. Let me know if these videos are helpful to you, and leave me a comment. Let me know what I can help you with personally. You know, I would love to stay connected. Let me know what's working and how it's hitting for you. So first of all, happy Black Friday, if that is something you can say. I'm sure that there are a lot of really mixed feelings out there about Black Friday. For some people, it means that it's a tradition. You know, hey, my family, we wake up super early, or we stay up super late the night before, and we get a start on our shopping. You know, for some other people, it's about, you know, hey, I want to save money on my Christmas presents, so this is the most economically affordable time for me to do my Christmas shopping, even though I kind of hate the fact that I have to go out and face all the crowds and everything like that. And for some people, it's about like, hey, this is terrible. This is an awful display of mass consumerism that is harmful in so many ways to people at the individual level. I mean, you know, we see almost every year there's people who there have been people, you know, who've been injured or even died by being stampeded when the stores open, right? There was a Walmart greeter, I believe last year or the year before, who lost their life because people were so, you know, caught up in this mass hysteria over consumerism. So Black Friday is this kind of weird phenomenon that you know, that so many people have different opinions about. And I want to look at the way that I want to use Black Friday as an example of where we have our patterns and where sometimes those patterns don't always serve us, right? So we may have a belief or a pattern that has been ingrained in us. Just for example, let's say that we were raised this way, that our parents were like, hey, we're going to do our shopping on Black Friday because that's when all the sales are, and we're going to be able to have a nice, economic, and relatively affordable Christmas holiday with the money that we've saved up, you know. And there's nothing wrong with waiting to buy things when they're on sale, you know. In theory, that's a decent idea. I talk about all the time. When I moved to my apartment in Los Angeles, I scoped out everything that I wanted to buy furniture-wise beforehand, and then I bought it all on Memorial Day weekend when I knew it was going to be on sale. So in theory, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, I'm going to go shopping on Black Friday because that's when I know the sales are happening. The problem is that sometimes we retain that belief and it ends up not serving us well. So let's say that we retain that belief because that's the way that we've been doing things for a long time in our family. Hey, I'm going to go do my Black Friday shopping. And then, you know, we end up there and we're miserable and it's crowded and we have to get up earlier and earlier and earlier every year to make that moment when the stores open and we can get the things that we want to buy. And, you know, and yet, you know, and yet, we might be miserable or, you know, in the worst case scenario, we might be injured by being trampled getting there. And in that case, you know, we're going to step back, and if that does happen, I hope it doesn't happen to anybody out there. I hope it doesn't happen to anybody. But let's say it does because it's happened in the past, you know, then you're looking at someone who decided to, that their pattern for spending, you know, being able to shop in ways that they feel are economical became more important to them than perhaps their physical safety, right? And that's certainly not anything that they're to blame for. You know, the mass hysteria over events like these in our culture produces this mob mentality in people, right? That sometimes we only see in like political revolution, right? In mass hysteria, in chaos, right? So having too much of that idea that this is when we have to do our shopping in order to save money, we can become so preoccupied with saving money that that we forget about our physical safety. And that's honestly, like, I know this might sound like a bit of a stretch of a metaphor, but that's really not all too different from, I had a lot of money trauma happen to me in my 20s, and where I lost everything as a result of a series of decisions that I made that I won't get into in this particular video because it's not super relevant. But when that happened to me, and I felt so much scarcity imprinted in me around money, that I ended up working in some dangerous work environments, because at that point my financial safety was more important to me than my physical and emotional safety, and I ended up having to undo a lot of the trauma around those, what some of what happened in those dangerous environments, in order to move forward with my life. And I think that's, that again, that's sort of like I'm putting money above my own physical and emotional well-being, right? So you want to look at the times when you have beliefs that cause you to align your priorities in ways that are maybe not the healthiest for you, right? Maybe Black Friday is something that really stresses you out, that you don't like, that you don't enjoy, and engaging in it is something that's a habit, that's a pattern that's been passed down to you, because maybe you're like, oh, my family always does its shopping on this particular day, so I've got to go and do that thing, especially, if you're a parent, if you're one of the caregivers in your household, you may feel really obligated to take care of your family, and especially your children, being able to buy them gifts for Christmas at a time when you can afford them. But if you're looking at that, how much is that experience stressing you out and maybe causing you to be less present with your family, to be less happy? Remember that when we are taking care of ourselves, it's a gift to our loved ones as well, because then when we show up for them, we're showing up and having a full cup to serve from. We're showing up and we're taking care of our physical and emotional well-being, so that we don't snap at them, so that we don't lash out at them out of frustration or stress or inconvenience or what have you, right? So if you're someone who's a parent and you're so concerned with like, oh my God, I do everything for this family and I don't receive any appreciation, and I, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting up at midnight to go and do my Black Friday shopping so that my family has a good holiday, then if you feel like that's actually taking your own mental and emotional well-being down several notches and causing you to lash out or get frustrated or stressed, that causes you to not be able to relate to your family as well, to not be as present with them, to not express as much kindness and compassion to them, then maybe it's worth taking a look at and saying, you know what, maybe the amount of gifts under the tree this year is not worth all of the stress that this is causing, and choosing to align with something different for this year, or for next year if you're already out, right? but that's where our patterns can really crop up and not allow us to see where we're making choices out of habit that are not serving us. That's really the crux of this video, is that Black Friday is something that is really ingrained with a lot of habits and patterns in many families across America, where they're willing to go ahead and participate in this mass hysteria, which is often at the detriment of their own mental health, emotional health, sometimes physical health, and in some rare cases, even their very lives, sadly to say. And I believe, if it is true, if I'm recalling correctly, that it was the Walmart greeter who was so tragically killed in that incident, then we're also looking at, problems of the way that our society sustains itself in this capitalist society, where people are so underpaid and kept so disenfranchised that they feel that they need to work on a day like that, where their very life could be in danger, and those corporations that are hiring them are not doing even remotely the due diligence to keep those people safe and keep them nourished and fed, both financially, as well as emotionally, and in this case, even in regard to their physical safety. So that's also a whole other issue. I'm certainly not going to blame anyone for that at the individual level, but it's good to call attention to it in any case. You know, it's good to be aware of the things that we're choosing, and sometimes we're choosing them out of economic necessity. But it's good, you know, while there's no judgment because everyone is taking care of themselves as best they can. Sometimes it's good to bring some awareness to that. So what I do for Black Friday is every year, you know, I try to look at what you know, what I can possibly take from it that might be positive, and all the ways that I don't want to engage in it. My mom and I actually have a tradition of staying up late and kind of doing some of our, you know, just going out, and we don't even really spend that much money anymore because my family has gotten certainly a lot less materialistic, you know, as we're getting older, and as we're distancing ourselves from the need to be in those paradigms, you know, of proving ourselves or keeping up with the Joneses or whatever. You know, my mom and I actually, you know, sometimes we'll go out and we'll just kind of walk around, you know, some of the outlets on Black Friday and just kind of marvel at the madness of everyone who's going out, and just the weirdness of going shopping at 3 in the morning, you know, for someone who, like me, is pretty nocturnal, you know, and kind of goth, very goth, you know, the experience of going shopping at 3 in the morning is always this kind of weird, dreamlike, magical, just weird experience that that I kind of sometimes like to go and take in. You know, the crisp air, you know, of fall, you know, approaching winter is always just this kind of thing that I've actually found sometimes kind of energizing and charging, you know, because I'm not attached to the outcome of like going and buying a Tickle Me Elmo or what have you, you know. This year in particular, Target is, and by the way, I'm not sponsored by Target at all, although if they want to send me a weighted blanket, I would love that. but I read the other day that Target is selling weighted blankets debuting in their stores on Black Friday. And if you don't know already, if you're not familiar with a weighted blanket, the reason it's particularly special is that it's something that really helps a lot of neurodivergent people or people with anxiety or trauma or PTSD to self-soothe, because you put on this weighted blanket. And I haven't actually tried one yet, but apparently it's incredibly soothing to feel this weight on you. It just feels like being wrapped in a giant hug, and especially for children who might be neurodivergent, especially who have autism spectrum disorder or you know, ADHD or anything where they require extra self-soothing. It's something that's really terrific. And normally, because making a weighted blanket is not cheap, normally these are quite expensive, and Target has managed to find a way to mass produce them and sell them at a fairly accessible price, which is becoming even more accessible due to their Black Friday sale. And so I think this Black Friday, you know, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna get one of those weighted blankets for myself, or I told my mom she could buy one for me for Christmas, because it's, like I said, it's a very accessible price for most people, at least certainly in comparison to what normal ones are. So out of that, I'm kind of taking this like, wow, hey, that's cool. I could get this thing that's going to help me actually feel better, and I can take that out of the Black Friday experience and say that's the part of it that I align with. That's the part of it that I feel good about. But the rest of it, you know, I'm gonna distance myself from, and I'm gonna say, if this doesn't serve me, I'm not gonna keep being in this pattern. I'm not gonna keep saying like, oh, I have to do all my Black Friday shopping today, you know, so I save money or whatever. I'm not gonna put that stress and that pressure on myself if it's making me feel bad, right? So if there's anything, and this goes for anything, I just happen to be talking about Black Friday because today is Black Friday, but if there's anything out there that is a cultural phenomenon that gets handed to you and is pushed, especially by the media and by our consumerist society, to say, hey, you should be doing this, right? Like we just had Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is the same way. It's like, hey, you should be celebrating Thanksgiving with your family because that's what everybody does, or whatever. Whenever you get that handed to you, I really invite you to look at it. And we live in such a binary these days where oftentimes people are either like, yes, I'm totally all in, I buy into this is what we're supposed to be doing, or they're like, oh, fuck that's just capitalist consumerist society, and I'm gonna rebel against that and fuck it. And you know, while both those approaches are legitimate if really consciously engaged with, it's that conscious engagement that I'm really encouraging you to cultivate. And that conscious engagement means I'm gonna look at this and I'm gonna say, in what ways does this thing serve me? and I'm going to take those things about it and I'm going to get rid of the rest. Like I've said in the other Thanksgiving videos this week, you know, for Thanksgiving, I often throw a party in November that's not on Thanksgiving, but is between Halloween and Thanksgiving, and I serve a whole bunch of fall food and I invite a bunch of my closest friends because that really feels good, whereas celebrating the colonialist holiday of Thanksgiving itself does not feel as good to me. So again, it's like, all right, I'm going to take the food and I'm going to take the gathering and the friends and the celebration and I'm going to make it my own. And I call it Haunted Mansion Party because I'm goth and that's fun. So the same thing with Black Friday, the same with anything that you're handed, any holiday, any societal paradigm that you are expected to participate in just by being a member of this society. I invite you to examine it and pull it apart and really ask yourself what parts of this are working for me and what parts are not. So for me, I'm going to find a way to grab my weighted blanket. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself to participate in any way that doesn't feel good. You know, I'll probably decide how tired I feel and whether I want to go, you know, because I'm filming this before actual Black Friday is happening. I'll probably decide, you know, whether I want to go out and hit the stores at some crazy hour with my mom or not. Maybe we'll just be tired this year and embrace the joy of missing out. But either way, that's really the point behind it, is to cultivate that discernment and choose the parts of those societal paradigms that actually work for you and don't feel obligated to align with anything that does not work for you, and removing yourself from that binary, creating more nuance where you can really pick and choose the things that get handed to you and decide what you want of them for yourself. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know, and I hope you guys are having a great holiday weekend.